It's a Short Time Wrestling podcast. Back at you again today, welcoming back Brendan Buckley, the executive director of Beat the Streets, New York City, as we've got Final X coming to Newark across the river in Jersey and the annual BTS Gala. We're going to talk to Brendan about the things that have been happening since we last talked about a year ago. And before we get to the event and what's going on in Jersey, yes, just it's basically New York City's greater metropolitan area, which I think goes as far down as South Jersey, doesn't it, Brendan?
Um, Metropolitan New York wouldn't really be South Jersey,
I'm
but
just making
Tri-
jokes about how
Tri-State.
the metroplex that goes
Yeah,
from, like, I don't know, Boston to DC. So
yeah,
a
true,
lot of a
true.
lot of people live in the East Coast in that corridor there. But before we get to the news of the day, Brennan, how you been? Been a while since we chatted. How's life in New York City?
Life is great. This was a great year. Things felt totally normal in the sense of getting back on the mats, returning to business as usual, training kids, impacting kids, events, tournaments, clinics, camps. Travel competitions. We had a great year. The PSAL had 8 state medalists at the New York State tournament, so that's a record. Um, yeah, now here we are playing the next benefit, but things are good. I had a new staff who've done a great job. We have some new board members, and yeah, we're smooth sailing and pumped for our event coming up on June 10th.
Each year when we talk Beat the Streets New York, we've kind of got to re-educate the wrestling community on what the event is, what the organization is, and kind of its foundation. So let's give us the 20,000-foot view of how the organization started and where we stand right now, not just with, of course, the gala, which a lot of people know about, but the actual programming you guys do in New York City.
Sure. Al Bevilacqua was the brainchild of this. He was passionate about growing the sport and utilizing urban centers as the strategy to do that. So he's a New Yorker, grew up from Long Island, was involved in, was worked at USA Wrestling, was on the world team staff. And so his idea, he got Mike Novogratz to buy into the idea, and Mike fully got behind it. And what started with humble beginnings, helping out a wrestling program after he graduated from Princeton, to coming up with a vision for the annual benefit and infusing energy into the sport and using our event as a platform when the Olympics were considering to be eliminated, our sport, and it really created a groundswell of support. And fast forward to where we are, and our benefit has been in some of the most iconic venues in New York City, from the aircraft carrier, the USS Intrepid, Times Square numerous times, at least 6, 7 times, Grand Central, the South Street Seaport, Hulu Theater twice. And in the pandemic, we had it on the Hudson River in Hoboken, New Jersey, at Frank Sinatra Park. And now this is by far our largest event to date. Last year we had half of the weights for Final X. This year we have the whole shebang, and so that necessitated our acquiring a full scale arena. So we certainly love the Hulu Theater in Midtown, but going into a full scale arena where we could have 3 full mats and really run a tight schedule. And here we are at Prudential Center. We don't have to worry about the Devils making the Stanley Cup Finals and then having to move it to June 9th. And the person we work with, Dylan Wanagil, is just a total pro and big wrestling supporter. So that was a big drive for us to go to the Prudential Center as well.
Getting into hockey again this year with the college hockey I'm announcing kind of brought me back to, and I always watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, but sitting there having to root against a team that is in a building I've announced in a couple times with a guy like Dylan who works there, it's like, man, like I was sitting there thinking, man, it'd been cool to go to a Stanley Cup final game, but they got beat by the Carolina Hurricanes, who then got swept last night by the Florida Panthers. There's too many, yeah. Anyway. What's wrong with cities, man? But also, quick note about Al Bevilacqua. Little known fact: Jerry Seinfeld's high school wrestling coach. So we
Right.
can't not mention. Mr. Bevilacqua, you know, the episode of Seinfeld where Jerry's on the foot race and the car backfires. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen an almost 30-year-old episode of Seinfeld. But yes, Al
That's,
Bevilacqua
that's
has
the
the
peak.
presence of mind
Yeah.
there. And Al, let's go back to Al for a minute and talk. I mean, if you grew up in the East, you know Al. If you grew up in wrestling, or if you even have crossed paths with wrestling at all, you know Al has the gift of gab. I co-hosted the Living the Dream Thankathon a couple times when I was in Colorado Springs, and you want to talk about a guy that brought a lot of ideas to wrestling. This seems to be one of the biggest impactful ones. How many thousands of kids has Beat the Streets New York impacted, not just on a daily basis, but since the span of its existence?
As long as I've been here, it's in the neighborhood of 3,000 kids, 2,500 to 3,000 kids, which includes kids that come to our training center, middle school league, our partnership with the PSAL, which has exploded since Beat the Streets began, and that terrific leadership over at the PSAL, and then our event, just really growing our brand and getting it out there. Girls wrestling has been a huge part of that. This year, we're celebrating 10 years of having a girls only wrestling league at a different time of the school year. But yeah, I mean, we've been around since 2006, 2005, 2006. So you're talking 15 years. At that time, there wasn't 3,000 kids in that first year. It took some time, but you're talking in the tens of thousands. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see the kids that have come through. They've gone through high school, they've gone through college. Now they're coming back and giving back to the organization. Some have been volunteer coaches, some have been on staff and such. But as we look to the gala here and coupling it again with Final X, talk about that relationship with USA Wrestling and obviously Flow Wrestling as a partner in. Last year again, you said half the weights. Now it's the full weights. Talk about that partnership and what it's been and what it's meant to Beat the Streets and probably to the sport of wrestling as a whole.
Yeah, USA Wrestling. I mean, we couldn't do this without them. One of the interesting things, and it's definitely a lot better for us in this regard, is we don't have to create matchups. We don't have to worry about getting visas and talking to consulate, and it was very tricky. How we're going to pay these athletes in the appropriate way when they're here and they're foreigners, and it became a challenge too. And we would. You would have two guys, say like a Cox and Snyder, for example. This didn't happen, but it could have. This was just an example of what could have happened. Like, say we're trying to get them to wrestle in our event, and they're going to wrestle at Final X. Like, why would they kind of do that when they know they're going to see each other when it truly matters for the trials? We had sometimes people at different weight classes, and so it became really tricky. So. I kind of lost my train of thought as I was going down that rabbit hole there. What was the question again?
Well, I was talking about the relationship with USA Wrestling.
Yes, I'm sorry, USA Wrestling. So
well.
Rich Bender is a terrific leader. As I mentioned, we couldn't do it without them, and so them raising their hand and stepping up and awarding us the opportunity to serve as the host for when it was our traditional charity events, when we do an international event. And, they were very gracious with their schedule. I mean, we didn't want to get in their way of, say, they have a training camp coming up or they're going to a ranking series event internationally, but they always were terrific, have always been great, and helped us get the athletes signed up and helped us internationally to reach out to foreign national teams. And so with Final X, the genesis was last year. We were trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to, this is before we did Final X, how are we going to, in knowing what the schedule is with Final X is June, we normally do our event in May. That's going to be tough, or is someone going to want to compete in a marquee match and then risk getting injured prior to Final X? Or again, the likelihood of them wrestling one another if they're at the same weight was not great. And so I just asked, well, what if we did Final X? And so Rach was like, yeah, let's do it. So then we ended up splitting it with Oklahoma State. And then I think that was a challenge on the RTCs and the national team, sending coaches to both events, spending more money to do that. So going the route of under one roof at one time, same weekend, all styles. I remember when I looked at the original, like essentially the agreement and contract that um, you have to sign when you are the quote unquote LOC, the local organizing committee. And the first time I looked at it, I was like, absolutely no way. That looks like that's a massive undertaking. Um, and then I was like, well, all right, we'll do half. And so we did half. And now we're at 2 weeks, and I'm being reminded of what a massive undertaking it is. But there's a lot of passionate, hardworking, diehard wrestling fans and supporters who are behind the idea of Beat the Streets hosting it. And as I said, USA Wrestling's on board. Pete Isaias, I work with a lot. He's fantastic. I mean, he's really just a lot of the brains behind all the running a massive event like that. He does numerous every year, and so yeah, here we are.
When we look at the date, the date isn't also the issue, I think, as much. The day of the week to me has always been kind of one of the things with the annual event coupled with the gala, because it's like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's in the middle of the week, and when you put a middle of a week event, and traditionally it's been in Manhattan. So Hulu Theater, for those who are unaware, is connected to Madison Square Garden. So you have the same issue in navigating, getting mats in places. I mean, there's getting things into the Garden is a science with their loading docks, and that building. It's filled, I think, 364 days a year with events. At least it was pre-COVID. And moving it over to the Prudential Center also, but it's a main event arena. But how much easier has it been to kind of say, all right, we got a little bit more space. We don't have the tightness that Midtown Manhattan brings to try to plan an event and getting things in and out.
Yeah, being a larger arena, there's more tech that is available, and much there's the jumbotron, they call it Rock Vision at Prudential. I think I'm told it's the largest
indoor hockey
TV.
arena size. I mean, Jerry World and SoFi are big, but they're football stadiums. This
Yeah.
thing is massive.
So I mean, when you walk in, we did our first walkthrough. Our producer is awesome. His name is Damian Santucci, and he was like, "This is nothing's easy," but he was like, "They've got everything here." So it's a modern, it's a very modern arena with incredible tech, and it's like it's great. I mean, so we're challenged, right? We're our goal is to sell out the lower bowl, which is 8,200. So we're more than halfway there now, and we're hustling. We've been doing ticket sales, group ticket sales, where you buy 10 tickets, you get 3 free. We just launched a discount on all ticket sales on Ticketmaster, up to 35% off tickets from Friday until Monday. But going into the arena, it's there's certain aspects that are going to be a lot easier. And a big driver was just getting into the hotbed that is New Jersey wrestling, close to Eastern Pennsylvania. It's going to be closer to Philly. A lot of people, it's just easier to drive, park in a garage as opposed to going into the city. There is mass transportation in New Jersey Transit, the Path, buses, Amtrak, that all go to Newark Penn Station. From New York City, it's a 15-minute train ride on the New Jersey Transit. You can catch the Path train for a few bucks. So that was really and we looked at the data. I mean, we had emails from all of our people who purchased tickets or sorry, a zip code, and looked and saw where they were. It's kind of evenly split between New Jersey and New York, and for a lot of reasons, it made sense for us to go to Prudential, and we're seeing by having the whole Final X and then being in New Jersey that ticket sales have been going very, very well.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned Damian Santucci's name, and for people who don't know, this guy loves to work events. He's been working sports events at the Garden. The guy is also like one of the lead producers, if not the lead producer of like Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve. So the guy knows how to run an event. So that's not gonna be a problem. He was also our producer at the very first NCAA championships that we had at the Garden in 2016. So got a chance to know him and how he operates things very intimately. So me and Brian Hazard are going to be set when it comes to that part of it. on the announcing side. Now, let's group in the event itself. I'm going to bring up, if you are watching on the video, we'll go over and we'll bring up the website, what we've got here. The benefit, which is a big part of this with Beat the Streets, it's not just obviously the wrestling, but we start with the true third matches, which were just announced yesterday. I believe 17 of them, if I'm not wrong. I could be. That's on the mat.com or on Flow. Starting at 12:30, so the doors open at noon. 2 o'clock is the first session for the first best of 3. Then we come back at 6, and any third matches will take place in that second session. Then the after party, and I was looking this place up. I'm a craft beer guy. I'm also a beer hall kind of guy. So before we get to that, Reed's Beer Garden is going to be the site of the gala this year. Kind of a more, I guess, approachable type of place for people who may have never been to a gala before. Very, German food, a lot of beer. This is something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, so we kind of refer to it primarily now as the annual benefit because we're kind of the anti-benefit, or sorry, anti-gala, in the sense that we're not too formal. So it's more of it's a party.
It's a tuxedo T-shirt kind of thing. It's like, hey, I'm formal, but I like to party. Is that maybe what we're getting at? Maybe that's a theme next year.
Well, if you want to wear a tuxedo T-shirt, no, I'm not going to stop you. But you won't see black tux. There might be a few people, but for the most part, you might be seeing jeans and a blazer. There'll be some people in suits, but
I'm writing down tuxedo T-shirt right now because I will channel my inner Cal Naughton Jr. in this case. I've never done it before. I mean, hey,
what do they call it? There's also like the Canadian tie or something.
Well, there's the piano key necktie, which we could also do if you want to get classy and go like Frankie Goes to Hollywood or something like that, to borrow another Will Ferrell movie reference. Or I don't know. I mean, the denim. You can go all denim. We can go Canadian tuxedo on that too. But
you could be like Superman and just go into the phone booth, and you could come out with say 3 different outfits.
All right. You live in New York. When was the last time you actually saw a phone booth?
So I don't live in the city anymore. I'm in the suburbs of New Jersey now. However, I think I heard I don't know, in the last 6 months they removed the last. It probably wasn't a booth, but the last telephone, like payphone in New York City. It's pretty hard to imagine that they actually like it lasted until just 6 months ago. But that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so if we go to the website, give.btsny.org, and click on events, we've got the benefit there. We've got the Final X Splash presented by Tezos, which, again, was a sponsor last year. So all the information at Red's Beer Garden, which I looked up. I made sure. I'm like, we talked about that. Price of your tickets. Now, this is something that sticker shock for some people that aren't familiar with what the benefit actually is. So we've got this is kind of geared, of course, at the philanthropic side of things and people that are into donating and such, but price points are what they are. What's one of those things that say, hey, I'm not this type of tax bracket kind of guy to donate. What can you do to also basically contribute to things like the benefit for the city of New York or even other Beat the Streets chapters, which while this isn't directly associated with the other Beat the Streets chapters, there are similar events that other like BTS Los Angeles hosts similar type of things.
So first of all, anybody can get tickets. It's as cheap as $40 and even cheaper beginning tomorrow for the Memorial Day sale. You can get a ticket I think it's a $34 ticket, and then it's a $6 Ticketmaster fee or facility fee. And then it goes all the way up to, I think the tickets are maybe like $8.50 if you want to be a VIP seat. So everything on Ticketmaster is if you don't intend to go to the after party. So those tickets do support Beat the Streets. We even have a few boxes available. But pretty much that sponsorship form that you saw, to become a sponsor, it begins at $1,000. That comes with access to the after party. And so look, we spend a decent amount of resources to rent the venue. First of all, to just run the entire event, but to rent the venue and have an open bar and food throughout the night. So that's where we ask our board to be able to solicit their friends and ask their network and colleagues to be able to purchase packages. We target corporations. If you buy a ticket that's $1,000 and up, you get recognized on the big screen. We have a digital program, And then for anybody that gives as much as $25,000, there's like a 30-second commercial essentially on the big screen. And then we've even had naming rights, and Jersey Mike's was a corporate sponsor for us. They gave us $50,000, and they're going to have a logo on the wrestling mat. So there is still time available. That people would have to move quickly on that, but that's sort of the difference. When you go to our page, it can be Final X match only, and then benefit. So if you hear benefit, that means you're getting a seat at the match, one of the best seats at the match, as well as the after party, and then you get perks as far as recognition and such.
When we look at the matchups here, I'm going to bring that back up on the screen. This is something, I mean, you were a head wrestling coach in college for a while and a couple different spots, and you did pretty well on the mats yourself. But what are some things you're looking forward to when it comes to these Final X matchups?
Well, I like some of the storylines. Like I was really what was I looking at here? Um,
We got men's freestyle on the
like
screen.
Aruja and Garrett, like Nashawn Garrett had a tremendous weekend last, and I'm just like, wow, that's really cool. And then I'm like, it almost like took me a moment to realize like Garrett's a Cornell guy, so like that's a pretty interesting storyline there. Um, but yeah, I mean, just like looking at last weekend, it was pretty interesting, and like Adeline is back. She's going to be looking for return. Um, um, I mean, just like the multitude of people here from Penn State. The Greco guy who's 43 years old, who's actually was living in New York City before, and like he was involved with Beat the Streets. So yeah, there's some really tremendous storylines, and everybody's excited to see Gable Stevenson back after dominating at the Open. So it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like for the people, if you're just specifically about the wrestling, there's a lot to get excited here. And then when you add to the fact it's our annual event, we make it a show. It's not just wrestling matches. We have some of our kids speaking, and we have some cool. This year we're celebrating 10 years, as mentioning, of girls wrestling in New York City. So we have to have some video content for that, recognizing our donors, and we have a call today with a drum band to open up the evening session. So we try and really make it an exciting event, whether you're a wrestling fan or not.
The Olympic trials really draw well. They're coming up next year in State College. But one thing that, the World Team Trials, going back to, I remember been covering those things since 2004. The first Olympic trials I covered was in '04 in India, and then the World Team Trials, I think I've only missed one anywhere since then. And it's like the trials have always been kind of like, okay, you're wondering why. Like Council Bluffs, you had basically like I remember 2 years in Council Bluffs, it was like maybe 1,000 people would have been there. And it was like, what's the problem? And now we've got a Final X, 30 matches, boom, boom, boom. This is like 3 matches. You've got mat per style, and it's right there, couple sessions. First time this Final X format is being done with all 3 mats simultaneously. So as a wrestling fan, let's take yourself out of running this organization or running this event for a while. What are you most excited to see about this whole thing come together for the first time like this?
It's just funny. I just got chills a little bit as you're saying it, because we're just so focused on like all these little things that we're doing. It's almost like we kind of I lost grasp of just to hear that, the fact that it's the first time doing it with all 3 mats simultaneously. It's great. I mean, we have so on the women's side, we put all the family members and all the fans, and so we put all the fans in each style like in front of their mat, which is kind of cool. And some of the bleachers come all the way down to the floor. We have a VIP section. It's like it's just going to be fantastic, and it's just always like a surreal experience, because when you go to a concert, you just you're so focused on whatever the experience is, or you go and you see a wrestling match, you don't really think about everything that goes into producing that event, like production, what a challenging and stressful, and you could have, was it Tyson? You could have a plan. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it is in event production. You get punched in the face a lot, and you just have to you just pivot, come up with a strategy to overcome that and fix it. And so, but yeah, to have all three events, to be able, like I said, aspire to, try and hit 8,000 fans, and do this for the first time in the New York metro area is pretty exciting.
Yeah, you got the opportunity. Of course, we look at it from a wrestling standpoint. It's like, okay, medalist, world champ, Olympic champs. We've got plenty of them in here. But then there's that casual, I don't want to say casual because if you're following wrestling, chances are some enough about it. But now you've got, okay, your high school wrestling fan that may not be the college wrestling fan that may not be the international wrestling fan. And you're going to bring Gable Steveson in there. And, he's already getting some pop. Obviously, he's signed with the WWE, and he's got, there's like, well, wait a minute, this is big for them because it could be an active, guy on contract trying to win an Olympic medal, which would be huge for their brand and in terms of whole, like, the pumping up the athlete side of it. We know they've got tremendous athletes in that business, but then, Snyder and Cox for the wrestling, like, savant. Yeah, we saw it at the Ruda Super match a couple years ago, but like we missed it at the trials when there was something on the line. Now there's a world team berth on the line. Jaden's coming up to the Olympic weight again. This is a qualifying year to try to qualify the weight class for the Olympics, which let's be honest, they're probably not going to have a problem doing that, knock on wood. But I mean, just from the competitive standpoint, I mean, you just got to salivate over these matchups in a lot of cases. And it really, there's 30 to choose from, and you get to see it twice. Like, I mean, you're going to go into, you're going to get a heart palpitations from how awesome this stuff could be.
Yeah. It's good. It's just fireworks, right? There's a lot on the line. We love being able to be the host and doing it in 12 miles from the world's city. It's essentially, tons of people are coming in from New York City. Tons of people are staying in the city. All eyes are going to be at the Prudential Center from the wrestling community in just over 10 days.
Again, from a fan situation, you talk about producing things, and there's also the athlete situation. It's a professional sports arena. Seton Hall basketball plays there on the college basketball side of things. The New Jersey Devils, the main tenant when it comes to professional sports. But when the athlete situation, you go underneath the belly of the building, for example, what is it going to be like for the athletes down there? Rest areas, locker rooms and stuff. How are they going to be able to kick back and relax between matches?
Yeah, first of all, they're like during the intermission, their hotel is, I think they're at it's like right by the arena, so staying far. So they'll be able to walk, 10 minutes and 15 minutes, probably be in their hotel room. But there's plenty of space. There's practice mats. They have like their locker room and, kind of private areas. Hulu was pretty tight last year. There was a lot of kind of back and forth from where the warm up area was to get down there. That's not the case. Just like from NCAs, it's, you want to go take a peek or see when you're up, you can just go right through one of the entryways onto the main floor and get a glimpse. But they have plenty of space. Pretty cool area for the press conference out on the concourse. There's like a common area where they'll get interviewed after they walk off the mat. Hospitality, it'll be a great setup.
As far as circling back to benefit and things of this nature, I mean, I remember going to one of the first ones at the Bowery. There was no wrestling involved. I remember my car got sideswiped by a New York City taxi. I remember the sticker shock of a $12.50 Jack and Coke. So, there's one of those things that like, okay, and we've come so far from, a ballroom with just some dignitaries to now you're running the finals of the world team trials here in the year before the Olympics. I mean, it's again not to beat that point to death, but you guys have come such a long way. I guess there's that. When are you going to be able to feel the most relieved?
Not until we do it on the International Space Station, Jason. We got to keep out doing.
Well, I mean, get Richard Branson on board to get some of the, what is it? What he's got him or Elon with the space, whatever, who knows? We've got plenty of astronauts who wrestled. I know Hazard's high school buddy Kel is an astronaut. You can find a way to get these people up on
Vic
the
Glover
space
from
shuttle.
Cal Poly is on the mission. Total stud. Um, yeah, I mean, this is when will we get to relax? Sunday, June 11th.
I don't know. 9 o'clock Saturday? 9 o'clock Saturday.
The after party's at 9:30.
Yeah.
Once everybody's in the door and things are smooth sailing, I think we'll be feeling good. If when all's said and done, you feel like you got hit by a truck, but nothing but grateful when it all comes together, knowing how hard everybody works.
It's going to be a good one. Brendan, any words as we wrap up here on Short Time talking about June 10th, Final X, Beat the Streets benefit, key points we didn't hit?
Yeah, just as a reminder, like this isn't just the Beat the Streets match, right? Like historically it was, or now Final X. The reason this exists, the reason that we are the host, is to raise critical funds to support 2,500 plus student athletes in New York City that really need your support. And this provides more than 75% of our annual operating budget. So paying for, like last night we had our career day. That's what that top picture was. We had 20 some odd students and about the same number of professionals from the New York City community come in and talk about different industries, from law firms and finance to nonprofits. And our kids got dressed up and, like helping kids just reach the next level in their life and achieve upward mobility. Paying for competitions and hotel rooms and entry fees and coaches and our staff and our office and our renting a facility and being able to feed the kids at events and renting it. We're trying to get a bus to transport our kids from Manhattan to Final X so they can get into the arena and see what this event is. That's purely for them. So when you buy a ticket, just remember that's you're supporting us. And when you do buy a ticket on Ticketmaster, there's a tab there where you can make a donation any size that will go to Beat the Streets. So would encourage people to hit that tab and do what they can. We'll have some raffle items that we're going to put up even for people who are watching from home. And I would just ask, don't wait till next week or the week after or a few days to get your ticket or your sponsorship. Because the next 2 weeks are just going to fly by, and we're grateful for everyone's support.
June 10th, Prudential Center. No New Jersey Devils to speak of this time of year. They had a rather quick departure from the Stanley Cup playoffs, but we will have wrestling in a building that a guy named Dylan Wanagale loves to put wrestling in. June 10th, Final X, all three styles, best 2 out of 3, followed by the annual Beat the Streets benefit. Information on that, btsny.org. Again, as Brendan just talked about, the tickets and whatnot. So streaming live on Flow Wrestling, information on themat.com and flowwrestling.org. I think that's what we got for now. Of course, you see the Twitter handle there on the socials at Beat the Streets. Of course, any questions there? Brendan, how else can they get a hold of you if they've got questions about this?
We're on every social channel: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, as am I. And then our website has all the details. If you want to get a ticket just to the match, you can go to Ticketmaster. You just Google Final X and Ticketmaster, or you can go through our website. And if you want to support us and get a ticket to the after party, you can only get that by going to our website.
Looking forward to it, and I think I may have to rock the tuxedo T-shirt. I may get on Amazon and get one of those. I've never announced with a tuxedo T-shirt. I'll have the tuxedo T-shirt with my trademark gold Jordan. So we'll be good to go there. So Brennan, appreciate the time and good luck with the event. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.